All right, welcome back to the Stan Simpson Show here with syndicated cartoonist Jerry Kraft, the Mama's Boys fame. We're talking about the two main characters, Yusuf and Tyrell. Yusuf is the athlete, more outgoing. Tyrell's the shy type. Now, I understand those personalities were a bit of you. Each of them were sort of who you were. Talk about that.
Absolutely. When I was younger, I was definitely more shy. You know, did the comic books and the Atari 2600 and a little more reserved with stuff. I was also pretty short. I didn't really grow till I was like out of high school, and I shot up like 6 inches.
So you had two phases of your life, the young stage, Right.
In, I'd say, senior year of high school, once I really started to shoot up, and I just got a little more outgoing. So I actually know what it's like to be on both sides of that. So I think because of that, I can use that to relate to kids who are more shy and without ridiculing them, and then kids that are more outgoing but without having them aggressive or being jerks about it, you know. So I think I try to find a nice little medium.
So your theme is what? What do you think your running theme is, and where do you get your ideas? Where do you get your storylines?
The storylines, and that's one of the things that kids ask me all the time, the storyline just really comes from walking around. You know, I talk to a lot of kids. You have kids too, watching kids too, right? Yes, so I have my in-home focus group. You know, so like sometimes you're right, I'll put the Xbox on like, interesting. So, you know, that's cool. And I was telling a group today, I was teaching at UConn actually today, and they said, well, where do you get ideas? I said, you know, I can see one of these young guys with, you know, the pants hanging, the sagging pants. And I'm like, well, what happens if he's running for a bus? You know, and just think like, you know, actually, the closer he gets to the bus, the more his pants come down. And then by the time he gets to the bus, maybe he trips and falls, the book bag goes up, the iPod goes this way, that goes that way, and the bus comes off, you know, pulls off. Or, you know, if he's on the swing, and I'll actually do stories like that, where Yusuf was on the swing, and every time he swung, the pants came more and more, and then by the time he got to the end, they just shot off.
Right,
you know,
so using humor to make a point, a very serious point.
Absolutely.
Now, what are your thoughts about that? Because there's a lot of urban kids now who are wearing the sag, and we know that comes from a prison culture. So how do you deal with that? Because if you talk to some kids about it, depending on how you come at them, they'll resent it, they won't hear you. If you use humor, perhaps they'll probably see how absurd it is to dress that way. So how do you deal with that?
In this book, in Mama's Voice, The Big Picture, I actually have it where Yusuf, the 16-year-old, gets visited by versions of how he could turn out. So one version is a 70-year-old version that still has his pants sagging. And he introduces him to some of his friends. He's like, you know, I got this tattoo on my face when I was 18. Now I'm 81, and it scares my grandkids.
Right.
You know,
make them think about the consequences of it.
To show that, yeah, you know, it's cool now, but that's with you. You know, you're going to be 80 years old with this Mike Tyson tattoo on your face, and that's not so cool.
A lot of kids don't really think about that age consequences, right? They live for today. They don't think about ramifications, and that's one of the biggest things you learn when you're in an urban school environment.
Right, absolutely.
Any kind of school environment. Kids don't think about what happens, their actions having consequences.
And that's what I did in this book over and over. Even one of the versions drops out of school and showing humorously, you know, if you drop out of school, you know, it's that pathway into kind of the prison system, you know?
Right, absolutely.
And then, you know, you can't vote. You can't get a good job, you don't get a good job, you don't get health care. And I touch on it, so, you know, an 8-year-old will read it and see and laugh because it's funny, but a 17, 8-year-old can read the same book and be like, oh, wait a minute.
That ain't funny.
I don't want to be, you know, if I'm not buff anymore, this tattoo shrinks from this to this, and you can't even read it anymore, or, you know, something like that, or what happens from dropping out of school, which I thought was cool at the time.
Now, you had the experience of growing up in a black neighborhood, going to all black schools, but then going to a school where you're one of the few black kids there.
Right.
Talk about that experience and how it helps you to tell stories and educate.
Yeah, I actually grew up in Washington Heights, as you mentioned, and I went to Fieldston High School in Riverdale. So I went from a class at School on the Hill or St. Matthews in Harlem that were like, you know, 25 kids, of which there was like, you know, 25 kids and Eric. You know what I mean? There's a Hispanic kid and the white kid, that was it. You know? Shout out to Eric, we're still friends. But then to go to a high school where all of a sudden it was like...
You're Eric.
Right, absolutely. You know, bizarro thing. It was like me and Greg and Ulrich and Ricky and Derek, and, you know, that was it. And it was like the 5 of us, and we're like going through this school like, wow.
How'd that shape you as a child and now as an adult?
It took a year to kind of, you know, navigate the culture a little bit. You know, had no idea what, you know, Kiss, you know, the group Kiss, and the Rocky Horror Show. I was like, I don't know what that is.
So the cultural shock.
Oh, the culture shock was amazing.
Right.
But I think as African Americans growing up here, you have to go seamlessly through these cultures, you know, and there are so many places where I'll even take my kids or my wife and we'll go places and we'll be the only black family, you know, or people will invite us somewhere and it won't be like, oh, well, you know, we have to invite another black family so they'll feel comfortable. But if we have a dinner party and we invite this one white couple, they're like, there are going to be other people there. It's like, hey, relax. We're not gonna hurt you. It's okay.
Yeah.
But this is what we go through.
Those are important experiences, though, right?
Well, absolutely. So this is what we go through all the time. You know, I think to be able to fit seamlessly, you know, to do that. And as a result, I mean, it's tough sometimes because then being in the all-black schools sometimes, and it's like, well, look at you. Why are you trying to talk white?
Right.
I'm like,
how do you deal with that? That's also a big issue in urban communities as well.
That's part of that whole, like, the crabs in the barrel thing of like your kid that it's like sometimes it's just the opposite. You know, it's like in any other culture, you know, you go to school, you get a good job, you get a house, you do this, you do that, and that's the American way.
Right. Kudos to you, right?
Right. You know, in ours, it's like, oh, you're a sellout.
Right.
So you do all these things that you think that you're supposed to do, and then you make it to the upper echelon. It's like, you forgot where you came from. Like, no.
Great themes for books, though, right?
Right, absolutely.
And you have your next book out again. We have about a minute left. Your next book that you're working on, your couple of projects.
Yes, it is a 17-year-old superhero. He and his father are in Harlem, Starbucks Road, that's where they live, and they are coming up with a way to help the community, not just by beating them down. Like, there is action in it.
Right.
It's called Positive Force. They can see it on my website and on my Facebook page and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, JerryCraft.com or something, right?
JerryCraft.net, JerryCraft.net or mamasboys.com.
Google him.
Google me. Google me.
Jerry Kraft, thanks. Good to meet you.
Thanks, Dan.
Bring one of those hats for us next time, right? You come on the show, you got to get some
I got a book for you.
You got some book for you?
I got a book for you. I got some swag.
I'm reading during the break.
Yes.
All right, we're going to come back, folks. We're going to switch gears and talk a little bit more of a serious topic. The NCAA sanctions levied against Penn State after the Jerry Sandusky trial. Overkill or overdue? Scott Gray from WTIC-AM and attorney Reese Norris join us for a chat. Don't even think about going away.